Do you have Estonia e-Residency and want to open an Estonia bank account? Welcome to the club. In fact, if you're like most people with Estonia e-Residency today, you probably have an Estonian company that you can't open a bank account for. And you might be wondering why you obtained e-Residency in the first place. By now, most people have duct taped together a few banking alternatives, EMIs, and payment services. But with all the scandals in the fintech space, like Wirecard losing 1.3 billion, more and more people want to open a real bank account. Fortunately, there's hope. In this video, we explain how the Estonia bank account game has changed, what you can do about it, and how e-residents can actually open a bank account. Before diving in, make sure you hit the subscribe button and the notification bell so you get alerted every time we post new account opening opportunities. Here at GlobalBanks, we help individuals and businesses unlock the benefits of international banking by helping them find and open accounts with the best banks around the world. And today, we're talking about opening bank accounts in Estonia. Estonia e-residents and Estonian companies were all the rage for freelancers and digital nomads over the past few years. Estonian companies were affordable. If you had Estonia e-residency, you could quickly register, maintain, and start your Estonian company. And Estonia only taxes distributed profits, which means those with the right setup could operate tax-free, something that is hard to do in almost any other European country. So, digital nomads everywhere rushed to apply for their Estonia e-residency, creating Estonian companies and opening Estonian bank accounts. And things worked really well for a while. But then, e-residents started having trouble opening Estonia bank accounts, and banks started getting tough on non-resident Estonian companies. It's like banks knew that non-resident accounts were about to become a major problem for them. That is when something horrible happened. In 2017, Estonian banks got caught red-handed in the largest money laundering scandal in European history. The gist: Danske Bank, the largest bank in Denmark, had a little branch in Estonia. And that little Estonian branch that could let 228 billion, yes, billion, in suspicious transactions flow through its doors for 8 years, from 2007 to 2015. To make matters worse, it turned out that most of that 228 billion was sent and received by, you guessed it, non-residents. Naturally, this set off a chain of events. Suddenly, Estonian banks got tough on compliance, tightened their rules, and started terminating non-resident accounts. If you or your company didn't have real economic ties to Estonia, you were a pariah and locked out of the Estonian banking system. Estonia e-residents, Estonian companies, and non-residents who applied for an Estonia bank account were either rejected or told politely to not even bother applying. And just like that, the Estonia bank account opening party was over. Estonia e-residents with freshly minted Estonia companies were faced with a harsh new reality. Either deal with subpar banking alternatives, pay more money to create a new company elsewhere, or get creative and find an alternative bank account. Now, let's break down the challenges of opening an Estonia bank account. To tackle the challenges of opening an Estonia bank account, we need to first tackle two major misconceptions about Estonia e-residency: the connection it creates between the e-resident and Estonia and Estonian banking. First, Estonia e-residency does not give you residency or a legitimate tie to Estonia. It's just an ID card that lets you use government portals, sign documents, and submit forms to Estonian authorities and service providers. Secondly, basically 99.9% of non-residents are toxic to Estonian banks, can't open bank accounts, and have been shut out of the Estonian banking system. For this reason, it might be time to start looking elsewhere if you're an e-resident in need of a bank account. On the other hand, if you're still hell-bent on opening an Estonia bank account, you need to understand what you're up against. Remember, the sting from the recent banking scandals is still fresh in Estonia, and many Estonian banks are still shell-shocked and recovering. Estonian banks were at the heart of the largest and most embarrassing money laundering scandal in Europe. And it wasn't just a minor compliance hiccup either. It's also important to realize that Estonian compliance departments are under tremendous pressure to perform and keep non-residents out. Bank executives don't want any more PR disasters, corporate embarrassment, or tumbling stock prices. So they're keen to de-risk their operations and keep regulators happy. On top of all of that, Estonian banks know they're being watched closely. Regulators and authorities in Estonia, Europe, and the US all have their eyes on this tiny little Baltic outlet now. The entire country is effectively on timeout, and for the foreseeable future, they're in good behavior mode. So, it's important for non-residents and entrepreneurs to realize that Estonian banks have zero interest in taking on risky, non-resident individuals and companies right now. So right now, you're probably thinking, well, where should I bank instead? And that's a good question, since despite the fact that Estonian banks hate non-residents, it's still 100% possible for Estonian companies and non-residents to open bank accounts elsewhere. You just have to think outside the box. In some cases, this means thinking beyond Estonia bank accounts, knowing where to look, and having the right information. For starters, you're going to want to consider the non-resident banking options outside of Estonia. And since you were considering Estonia in the first place, you might want to start by considering non-resident banking in other European countries. Your options, as always, will depend on your client profile, the amount you plan to deposit, and a wide range of other considerations. But you'll have a much easier time opening non-resident accounts in countries like Andorra, Bulgaria, Georgia, the Isle of Man, Malta, and many more. In fact, depending on where you open, you'll even be able to open accounts remotely. Of course, there are many other non-resident banking options available to you in other countries outside of Europe. Depending on your needs, your interests, and your profile, any one of them might be a good fit for you. If you want to learn more about banking in these European countries, or want to learn more about where else you can open an account, then head over to our website, globalbanks.com, where you can get the full rundown. Now, some of you might be saying to yourself that it might be worth a shot to try to open a bank account in Estonia anyway. We don't blame you, as there are a number of reasons why people keep trying to open Estonia bank accounts, despite the continued struggles. For example, people live, work, or reside there, or some regularly visit Estonia and spend some time there. Some want access to the euro and low-cost SEPA transfers, or to diversify their financial assets in a different country, region, or currency. As we shared earlier on in this video, pre-2015, many people wanted to open an Estonia bank account. Banking in Estonia was really easy. The Estonian banks accepted anyone. BVI companies, UK companies, it didn't matter. In fact, at Danske Bank's Estonian branch, 44% of total deposits were from non-residents. So they were used to dealing with non-resident accounts. As we all know, banking in Estonia started to change dramatically around 2017. Banking rules got stricter and a new type of non-resident client emerged: foreign non-residents with Estonian companies. But e-residents aren't the only ones looking to open Estonia bank accounts. In fact, there are 6 different groups that want and should open accounts in Estonia, if they can do it. E-residents who want to open business bank accounts for Estonian companies, foreign non-residents living in Estonia or surrounding countries, foreigners and expats who live, work, reside in Estonia, foreign non-residents who want a bank account in a stable European country, people with ties to Estonia, and businesses within that region that have ties to Estonia. While these groups tend to be the most interested in Estonia banking, not all of them are eligible. And without those ties to Estonia, are frequently rejected by Estonian banks. As a result, they are either forced to acquire ties, consider alternative banking solutions, or open accounts with banks outside of Estonia. If you fit into any of the categories mentioned, then having an Estonia bank account will make your life a lot easier. But in addition to the convenience, it can also save you a lot of money. So what if you can't open an Estonia bank account? If you've been rejected by Estonian banks in the past, it's time to start considering alternatives. This might include alternative banking solutions such as EMIs, fintech, etc., or opening a bank account outside of Estonia. And if your Estonia company is 100% reliant on fintech solutions and you're worried about sudden account freezes or the recent negative trends we're seeing in the sector, you should consider something more sustainable. Whatever the reason, getting prepared before your accounts are negatively impacted, it just makes good sense. If you need help sorting out your banking options in Estonia or just aren't sure where to turn, we can help. All you have to do is join GlobalBanks Insider to get instant access to our entire archive of banking intelligence reports. These include proven strategies for opening accounts, contact information for specific banks and bankers, and to make sure you don't waste your time, we'll also provide details on each bank's preferences, sensitivities, and more. You also get access to the GlobalBanks database, which includes easy to digest bank profiles, analyst insights, account opening contacts, and unique opportunities for the top banks in 50+ countries. Of course, be sure to click subscribe and gain more insights into the banking world by checking out our other videos. Thanks so much for watching, and we'll see you next time.